Thank you for listening to West Virginia and Commonplace. Before we get this episode started, let the sponsor real quick keep the lights on for me. Thank you very much. Today's episode is brought to you by HelloFresh. Do you feel like you are stuck in a dinner rut? With HelloFresh, you get fresh, pre-measured ingredients with mouth-watering seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. Skip all the trips to the grocery store. Count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. You can now enjoy cooking and get dinner on the table in 30 minutes or less. With over 25 recipes to choose from each week, there is something for everyone to enjoy, and all recipes are designed and tested by professional chefs and nutritional experts to ensure deliciousness and simplicity. And this week, one of the better things that they are offering is a balsamic fig chicken. Seems like it would taste really good. Go to the link in our show notes to get $80 off, including free shipping on HelloFresh and the #1 meal kit. All right. Welcome to West Virginia and Commonplace. Something that happens in this podcast game, and I'm calling it a game because sometimes things get tossed around, kind of like playing Nintendo. You play a little bit here and there, and then it comes a point that you get a certain dominancy. Like when I used to play Street Fighter, I would get out here and I wasn't that great, get beat up by Barlog, whoever, Blanca, whatever. And then it came a point that I got good and I started a reign. Like I got to a point where I was content with how I was fighting with Chun-Li. So nobody could dust me. Nobody could do anything to me. And, along the way, sometimes when I would play this game, I'd play with friends and they would become collateral damage. They weren't my intended target. I was just always trying to get better. So today with me, I have Red from Code Red, a podcast. We are here to discuss a few things that happens inside your reigns when you're out here doing your podcast. And we are all independent podcasters. That means that we take our time. We take it's 10:21 p.m. on a September 13th. We're taking time out of our schedules of sleep, more than likely, or eating, whatever he's doing. Mine will be eating and sleeping at the same time. We're here to discuss this. So, Red, tell everybody a little bit about your podcast real quick.
Man, again, I am just Red from Code Red, a podcast, one half of Code Red, a podcast, me and my co-host, Coco Cabana.
Coco.
Yeah, shout out to Coco, man. What we do realistically is we've hopped in our own lane. We talk on current event topics that everybody's talking about, but you get it from a male and a female's point of view. A lot of times we disagree. Most of the times we agree on subjects, but you get a raw edge from it. We don't give you politically correct all the time. Definitely not from me. Don't give you the political correct versions. We're just gonna give you raw and real and uncut. And then another thing that we tap into is this entertainment world. And we shed a lot of spotlight on some artists that don't get their just due, that are up and coming, that really have that it factor, but they're not getting the plug that they should. And we try to shed light on that. We talk to them, find out about their beginnings, whether it was a humble beginning, whether it was a struggle, and how they got to the point to where they are and what's next for them. And we put a spotlight on that. And that's our thing. That's our lane. That's what we stick to. And hell, we found our niche.
Okay, and then inside that niche, when you're building something, like I said about that little analogy I did with the Street Fighter, there's some collateral damage. Some people get mixed up, become a target of their own devices. We have things like that happen. But at what point did you realize that y'all got to reign over an area, like that y'all have a niche? You are the king and the queen of upcoming entertainment, or we'll just go straight forward with it and say content creators. You are bridging the gap between these people trying to get on a radio station, which is really hard to do now, and making it to a bigger platform. So when did you realize that you had a reign over this?
To be honest, I'm gonna keep it a buck. When you came at me about it, when you came at me with the concept of this new show that you wanted to go, or this new series, The Reigns, because we never looked at it as that way. I never looked at it as we had the reins over it. Now I do see and pay attention to things now, and I see that I don't really see, or I'm not going to say there's nobody else doing what we do. I won't say that, but I see no competition. So I won't say that I was thinking that we had the reins of it, but I know that what we do, we put a lot into, and we put out a very, very good product. We're not, either one of us, just how we're raised and how we're brought up and just what's inside of the both of us, we're not just gonna put out no shit. We're not just gonna put out no mess. So I 100% wholeheartedly, in the words of Frank Lucas, I guarantee it, that hey, we the motherfucking best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. Shout out to
Bret
your boy
Hart.
Bret
Oh, all right, I like that one. Now,
Yeah.
it's a thing I like to put in a spotlight on people because people don't, we always look through a glass at someone else. We don't ever truly see what we do. And it started a few months ago. I was just listening and I was getting, like I said, shout out to Podcastagram once again for what he did with the look.
Shout out Pat, man.
Shout out
Big
to
shout
Pat.
out to Pat.
Yeah, all day long.
Pat doesn't get the credit that he deserves. And when he was at a point to where he was getting that, some fuckery came about, and it was real wrong of how that was handled. But shout out to Pat. Pat does amazing things, and he don't ask nobody for shit. Shout out to Pat. That's somebody that I will stamp a fucking page in my passport to get across the island if you need one to get over there, and I'll whoop somebody ass about Pat. Shout out to Pat, man.
All right, so with Pat, like he put this lens on everybody, and me from the place that I sit on top of my mountain in West Virginia, not as a superiority thing. I just live on a mountain. I got to see a lot of different people, and I got to interact with different people,
Mm-hmm.
And along the way, your podcast was thrown out there. Me, you discussed how I found out about your podcast, and I started listening. And I will never forget. I was leaving West Virginia. I was hitting New Jersey, and I heard that intro, the one with the lady about the weed and the smoking and everything. So I'm at a rest area in Pennsylvania, and I got a Mitsubishi Outlander, so that's got sound in the trunk. So I hear that, and I'm going to the bathroom. I hear this, and I really gotta go to the bathroom and stuff. And I hear this, and I gotta let the trunk up. And I'm hearing, you get this hard remix in it, and then I hear y'all come on, and y'all are just talking. It was something about the Karen doing something in the inside the Victoria's Secret or something, and y'all was going back and forth and talking about it. And it was the delivery on top of the intro that got me in harder because I was like, they really got a craft to what they do. Like it's more than just a bare bone podcast. Because I do a bare bone podcast. There ain't no bells or whistles. The only sound effect you get is if something hits my foot or if this microphone falls. And to put that much craft into what you do, it takes a lot because anybody can go out here and just throw a little intro on, shuck and jive through things. But when you start getting into the body catalog of what y'all do, and it's not a point of me giving you praise, it's a point of just letting you think from someone outside looking in. You and we don't try to do comparisons to anybody, but we're gonna all be factual in life. I listened to your podcast against another podcast, and I went back and forth because I listened to a lot of different ones. So it wasn't like it was a week to week thing that I did. But when I had a free Sunday, because Sunday's my free day to travel and stuff, I'm sitting here. I done put 4 hours into your podcast. That's West Virginia to at least the corner of Delaware. So I got to embrace it, and I got to hear the different episodes. And it was a real joy to know that I didn't have to skip over a podcast because I can even say in my body of work, I got some gems, but it's like 6 of them you can skip over until you find where you fit in. In yours,
right.
Once people start listening, you're tucked in, you get in a trance about this artist that you're promoting just in that bubble of time that you promote them. And then you go on to something else, or y'all start off with something else. Once you promote that artist, that's the next banger that somebody's getting from Apple Music or whatever, however they listen to music, and that's the thing that intrigued me because I'm like, look at the production that goes into the episode, look at how it's promoted, which I looked at that first, and we talked about different things inside of promoting episodes and putting it on Snapchat, putting it here and there, and it seemed like y'all have a muscle. Y'all have a controlled podcast that you know the elements for, and you took it further. you're getting more listeners, not on anything that I helped you or said anything to you about, but you're getting more listeners because you're able to center the focus on what you're doing, the upcoming artist, on top of your pop culture. Even though you don't want to call it that, I know you don't want to call it, but your pop culture, when you do them two things right there, that's podcast 101. You can't teach that. You can't get someone to memorize that. That is just natural God-given ability if you believe in God. If you don't, whoever you believe in. So,
Right.
so that gives you a reign over certain areas because people emulate. That's my favorite word in the podcast industry is they emulate what another person does. And I started listening to some other podcasts that I didn't listen to before, and I started comparing them. We won't say names because we don't do that, but
Yeah.
I noticed there was a lot of jocking going on. And that jocking, when you got it going on, and mind you guys, he's solid. He don't do motions and stuff like I do. I'm moving my hands back and forth, doing all this extra 1992 remember the times dance shit. And anyway, it was purely like I started listening. I'm like, they are getting this from this man, and it's hard to pay homage to somebody because all of us emulated somebody. Even though even though you got that, you may have heard it from a disc jockey on the radio. Like I heard it from Walt Baby Love growing up, how to do a certain type of interview. And then, like I told you, you always hear me paying homage to 2020. Barbara Walters told me how to interview you and get the questions I want and get the answers I want out of you. So here, you're the architect of your reign, you and Coco. What started this podcast? Like we always talk about, oh, tell me a little bit about your podcast, but what started this podcast? And at what episode did you really start realizing that, hey, we got the training wheels off here, we're really going?
Man, to be honest, like I tell everybody, like I wanted to get into this realm. To be where we're at, about to wrap up season 2. It was a dream because I actually said maybe about we started October of 2020. We started in October of 2020. Prior to that, I had been podcasting with my family, with my cousins. Shout out to the Rivers Post, which I am also a co-host of the Rivers Post podcast. Shout out to Lex and T. We're revamping that, and that's going to be dropping back out too.
Okay.
I've been podcasting with them for a couple months, but even prior to that, I had all the equipment. I had mics. I had audio boxes, headphones, everything. I had everything set up. I had everything, and I was like, I'm gonna start a podcast. And this was before way pre-pandemic. This is like 2018, 2017. I started buying this shit, and I'm like, this is what I'm gonna do. I want to do this because I want to give myself a voice. Now, in my corporate world, people say that I have people eating out of my hand because I can command a room, I can command attention. But lo and behold, I don't feel that I get listened to. So
Okay.
I wanted to do a podcast because it was going to be something for me to get my voice heard, to get my voice out. So fast forward, after doing a couple months with my cousins and, even maintaining both for a while, but fast forward, Coco hits me up. I was like, yo, I've been thinking about doing a podcast. And Coco and I, we go back to middle school. We've
Okay.
known each other for quite some time. We went to middle school together, high school together, and even worked together for quite some time. So we've got a history, we've got a chemistry in that aspect. But she hit me up and she was like, yo, I think you and I would be a good mix to do a podcast. I'm like, okay, well, what do you want to do a podcast about? And at first, when she said it, I was kind of like, that really ain't the lane that I want to get in. But now, don't get me wrong, I love entertainment, I love music, and all of that stuff. But we were initially just going to talk about hot topics. But then after episode 2, we was like, yo, we on to something. This is actually working. Then we started having guests on. And then I was just like, you know what? What if we get to entertainment? What if we start, who could we get to? Or let's just start reaching out. Let's start shooting our shot. We started DMing folks, and people was just like, some people either didn't respond, some people responded and still didn't show, and some people said yes and stuck with it. And then the growing pains of it all, some of the ones we took some of that shit personal in the beginning. Like, Darren, you said you was gonna do this and then you flaked out. Come recording time, you don't show up, you don't respond to no message, you ghost us. We took some of that shit personal, but then at the end of the day, I'm a firm believer when your name is in the right mouth, somebody's gonna be like, dang, I had the opportunity to be on that. And at the end of the day, initially, I was like, nah, that chance ain't gonna come back around. Fuck you, because you said fuck us. But nah, you want to come back around, you can definitely do it. You can definitely do it. Ain't no shine, ain't no hate on it. Sometimes you don't get the awareness back then, or you don't take the people right now that should have hopped on Bitcoin when it was $1. That should have hopped on Bitcoin when it was 50 cents, and now it's 40 plus grand. Hey, that's fine. We'll take that. We'll take it all day long. But just to circle back on it, man, we knew about after episode 3 or 4, we really had something going, and here we are getting ready to be 41 episodes into this thing.
All right, and another thing that happens here, like you said, you went into some important lessons you learned here, and I'm glad that you got a thick skin for that, like letting people come back, because I'm so petty. Like, if in this business, I'm really tight with it. Everybody, I'm really genuine with. When I come to you, we're gonna talk about this and that. If you get to a certain point with me and we become friends, you got my home phone number, or at least my cell phone. You can call me, text me, talk to me about anything. But
Yeah.
and I really respect you on the fact that you don't shun anybody if they shun you. Because if someone shuns me and they don't come correct, like if they don't try to fix it, it ain't gonna get fixed by me, because I'm like you. So many opportunities and doors open up because the person that shunned you put that vibe out, and someone else picked that vibe up. And a lot of times, the person
Mm-hmm.
that picked that vibe up is the person that's y'all gonna gravitate, y'all gonna levitate, and y'all gonna move on from there. Now, what's it like though? Like when you hear your episode, like when you hear it come through the car, or you hear it come through your headphones. What is that? What is that feeling that you get when you hear it, that finished product?
It's a proud moment. It's almost like seeing your kid graduate from school. Knowing that you've taught them well, knowing that you've instilled everything into them, and they've gone out and they've succeeded. So I compare that in that way because I look at what we put forth then to coming up with deciding on what topics we're going to discuss, or once we once we book an artist, or once we book a comedian, or once we book a DJ, or once we book, I mean, and that's the thing, we have a variety of everything. Once we book a credit counselor, once we book a doctor, once we do and we put everything together, once we get the drawing board set, we put the vision board together, and we come up, boom, we're going to talk about this and this. All right, boom. All right, well, we don't want it scripted, but what's your point of view on this subject? All right, boom. My point of view is this. All right, boom. That's all I need to know. Your point of view. Here's my point of view. So we're going to come at it. We're going to come at it raw. Then we go in and we come up, we sit down, and we listen to the artist. It's so many people that I've seen interviews and I've heard interviews to where you can tell they don't know jack shit about the person that they're interviewing. They don't know anything about their music. They haven't listened to a song the first. We will sit and go listen to these songs. We'll sit and listen to their music if we haven't already heard it, and we dissect it, and we go through it, and we come up with genuine questions so that it's not a cookie.
It froze. Today's episode is brought to you by HelloFresh. Do you feel like you are stuck in a dinner rut? With HelloFresh, you get fresh, pre-measured ingredients with mouth-watering seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. Skip all the trips to the grocery store. Count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. You can now enjoy cooking and get dinner on the table in 30 minutes or less. With over 25 recipes to choose from each week, there is something for everyone to enjoy, and all recipes are designed and tested by professional chefs and nutritional experts to ensure deliciousness and simplicity. And this week, one of the better things that they are offering is a balsamic fig chicken. Seems like it would taste really good. Go to the link in our show notes to get $80 off, including free shipping on HelloFresh and the #1 meal kit.
All right. Yeah, so it's to me, we don't want to put out a cookie cutter product. So once we get to the editing portion, with us being audio only, when you listen to something, your attention span is only as good as the content. So if you got gaps and pauses, I'm a person that I can hold a conversation with you for the very first time, and the way that my mind thinks and how quickly it is, I can start formulating already what you're about to say well before you say it. So you've got to really be saying some interesting shit to keep me engaged. And I understand that about me, so I can only imagine how many other people out of the billion people that are that have the ability to listen to us are thinking. So I make sure that the gaps and pauses are gone so that we can continuously engage and capture a person's, an engagement to the episode. We can capture their attention. So I mean, when I hear the finished product of knowing that, hey, we put this together, as Tony Montana said, who put this shit together? Me. That's who. When I hear the finished product, it's a very proud moment. It's like, yo, I'm on to something, and we can only get better. We can only get better. Like, I can only go and learn more editing tips and editing tools. I can only get better with journalism. We can only get better by getting, bigger people, bigger guests that are gonna take notice to Code Red. And I just want to put out the best thing that we can, and that's what I strive for. And that's conversations you and I have continued to have. You know, my whole thing is any feedback I can get, I take it because I just want to get better. I want to put out the best that we can possibly put out. And if we can't put out the best, then what the fuck are we doing it for?
And that's the truth there. Like I even say in my instance, like I had a little gap up on an episode not too long ago. I dropped a big mistake. One advertising thing that I always tell people about, and I flaked on this, was if you say you're gonna put an episode out on a certain day, put it out on that day because people is gonna want to walk away from the episode and not listen. And I had a complete shutout on an episode.
100%.
I had that happen to me just last week. I promised an episode for a long time, and I built a pipe with mine. I might tell you about the episode in March and not drop it until May of next year. But the thing is, I tell you it's going to be on May 9th and not May 15th and go from there. Now, with having a rain, it has a majestic feel to it. It's a type of aura. That's the best way I'll say it. You don't know anything about it. You can't touch it. You can't feel it, but you know it's there. What advice would you give to someone that's a podcaster that wants to hone their skill like you and Coco have done? Like how would you tell someone to shape themselves so that they can have a reign over their category or their genre inside of podcasting?
I mean, at the end of the day, certain things are just in you. Certain things are just in you. Certain things you can't teach. Certain things you can't put into a person, and that's just what's in she and I. That's just what's in us. We definitely we're alpha individuals. She's an alpha female, I'm an alpha male, and that's just what's in us to put out and to be the best at what we do. Otherwise, if we can't be the best, we're not going to do it. We're not going to strive for it. So I say to anyone else that wants to grab the reins of where you're at, find what works for you and do your absolute best. Give your all into it. If you're not willing to put your all into it, nobody wants a half-assed product. Nobody wants half of anything. At the end of the day, nobody wants a half a dollar. Nobody wants a half-eaten bagel. Nobody wants half of anything. You may want half off when you're going to buy something, but at the end of the day, you don't want half effort. So my goal and my tip for anyone, if you're gonna do it, give your all to it and be the absolute best that you can with it. Find what works for you. Don't get into a cookie cutter mold and try to follow what everybody else is doing. Be you, be true to yourself, be who you are, because that's what people are going to stick with. That's what people are going to rock with. Too often than not, when you hear people, you can tell when shit's genuine and when it's fake. And that's what people live off of. People love realness. Now, don't get me wrong, you've got people that love this reality TV shit that's fake as ever, that's faking in these asses that you see on Instagram. But that ain't for me. I like that real raw shit. And it's a lot of podcasters that I keep in rotation that I listen to because they keep it real, and it just is what it is. I don't want to go listen to somebody that's doing the exact same thing as 50 other motherfuckers are doing and doing it the exact same way that the other 50 are doing. I've heard that already. Give me something different. So that's what we attempt to do. I don't even say we attempt, that's what we do. We give you something different. We're not going to give you, hey, and I'm not going to, give anybody any free publicity or, shout out their podcast or say their podcast like that in that regard. But we're not going to give you some of those podcasts to where you hear your big name people or you hear this big name person and you're basically doing it to just touch the masses. What we're doing is the same thing that we're putting spotlight on people that, hey, we find a dope. Somebody else needs to know about them. We're giving them a platform. We're giving them the springboard because you never know who's truly listening to Code Red. And shout out to all the artists that have come aboard. Don't think that, hey, just because we're not as huge as the Breakfast Club or somewhere else, it's some serious people that give a lot of y'all some listen. And it's a lot of people, some serious people that reach back out, hey, how can I get in contact with this person? I'm not gonna name any names, but I know somebody right now that's got a major deal that's about to be signed, and it's off of them doing an episode with us. And somebody that's connected to us heard them, plugged them, got them in the contact with the right people, and somebody that you've heard on Code Red, that
and,
you've heard an interview on Code Red is about to sign a major deal.
and see, that's something I like right there. Like, it's the extra voice. And I tell everybody this is like, we are the new radio. We are the radio. People don't tune in. We turn the radio on twice a week just to see what's in rotation on regular stations when we're outside of West Virginia, Stacy and I. And outside of that, like, nah. So I like what you're doing, and I got a real big, I ain't gonna say admiration. I have a big respect for that because, like I said, that showcase that you do, it does go a long ways. And I like that you encourage people, and you even did a good plug in there. I'm gonna give you advertisement credit on that one. Let them know that they can come to your show if it's some good quality, or if it's not some good quality, you're gonna still reach out and talk to them. Another thing that we got to focus on with you tonight is this: you're a podcaster with experience now. You're a podcaster that is versatile. You got a lot going on, and that's part of your personal reign. Coco has it too. We're not gonna knock her. We're gonna have to have you on sometime, Coco, when you're available. And I gotta give you a quick testament. From the time that we started talking, and everybody's embrace with me is different. It's a business embrace or it's a friendly embrace. Ours was a friendly embrace, and I'm not saying that outside of masculinity. I'm just saying how we talk, and I'm not saying embracing and hugging or nothing like that because we don't do that.
Yeah,
right.
nah.
But here's the thing: you were always 100%. You was like my second cousin, the one I would roll out with if I was in your county. You might not come to my county.
I already told you, when you get down this way, whenever they see when that corporation send you this way, hey, well, it's nothing. We'll link.
Yeah, no doubt. So here's my testament to you. When you have a rain is something that happens when you control a market. You control a certain market. I will never tell you the name of the market because you should know your own market if you're controlling it. Okay. But
Mm-hmm.
but the thing is that you're doing that. People are listening. Um, the unique listeners jump up every week. So many people get so tied up in, and we're talking the business aspect. So many people get tied up of having a constant number of listeners. But if you get, like you said earlier, a certain listener listens, even if it's just one time at the right moment, you're helping somebody's career. And at the same point, that career gets helped. That person's going to look back to what linked them to where they were going, and they're going to say, "Man, you was on Code Red podcast," and that's going to come back to you. And then that in turn is more fans coming along. So many people, and I try to do this in the business aspect when I talk to people. I tell people, don't worry about the 15-day listener, the 30-day listener. You need to see who's listening after 90 days. And I know you're seeing your numbers change and evolve, and you're seeing you got that nice loyalty base, but you're seeing unique listeners every week. So you're doing something that's attracting a new audience every week. And like I said, we don't worry about the longevity. We're looking at the point of those people may listen on day 30 and they may come back day 62 and catch up on everything. Because some people do that in life. And you have an utmost respect for this business to understand the challenges of quick success doesn't add up to longevity and keeping
Right.
your podcast going. And so many people I deal with, they don't understand that. So that's something I want to give a credit to you. I want to give a credit to Coco One because you built a show that's going to have longevity. Your show's beyond wings. It's got the Boeing 747 or whatever they called going on, and it's taking you all the way down to the Key West and back up. We ain't gonna go all the way to the Gulf side because we don't golf sides for the other guys.
Yeah.
So the testament is just real simple. You have a reign because you sat here, you established, you all did the one thing that so many podcasts don't do. You took the simple podcast 101 things, you grasped them, you took the gold balls and you threw them out the window. You broke the glass ceiling. You made sure there was no reason to say that you had potential because you already had the talent. So many people live on potential. Don't live on that potential because potential can be all hype. And you guys are above and beyond that. So that's why you have a reign. I want you to take it, soak it up. When you and Coco doing the group chat back and forth for the text messages between y'all, think about that later on. The simple steps that y'all took, the simple methodical ways of doing things work way better in this business. And y'all got that. And sometimes you don't see it. Like I said, that person looking through that glass can give you some emphasis, and then you can really go back and look at it. And it's not criticism, it's not an opinion, it's fact. And we're not talking about numbers, we're talking about the quality of what you present.
Right.
It's there. So y'all two need to keep doing that. Now to wrap this thing up.
Definitely intend on it. We definitely intend on it, man. And I appreciate you, man. You know, and I've always said this to you on anything that you've come to me with. And that's the thing about the both of us. Like, we're humble. You know, at the end of the day, we're one episode away from having 50 million people listening to us and one episode away of having nobody listen to us ever again. So we go after this thing with the mindset that, hey, nobody's too good to take criticism. We're going to take that criticism and we're going to work on it and we're going to be better from it and we're going to build from there. So that's the thing about it. We're not trying to get too high and mighty. Like, hey, we're just two people, strong-minded individuals that just demand perfection and they're going to put out the best that we can.
Okay. Now to wrap this thing up, this is the first episode inside of the Rain series. And the Rain is this. I listen to certain podcasts. In my opinion, doesn't matter to anybody. I just listen. But I kind of feel like sometimes I'm an AR in some of this stuff and stuff that I hear. You all produce a consistent gem. In West Virginia, you take a piece of coal and you refine it and it becomes a diamond. you all did that same thing right there. Y'all refined it and you have a diamond. You go in platinum and you keep that platinum plus luster to your diamond. You understand how to keep the luster in your diamond. She does too. Coco knows that too. So as long as y'all keep that luster going, keep it shiny. We all know the little ramifications that go along with a diamond. And the way the light shines on it, it refracts, reflects, whatever, different ways.
Right.
That's what's amazing about you guys, and I want you guys to keep on doing that. And one thing from the old podcast that I want to do real fast, please do my famous thing, the shameless plug everywhere you're at so everybody can get on with you. And once again, you introduce some new information to me and to other people about your other podcast ventures, so please tell everybody about what you got going on.
Man, again, I'm just Red. That's just me. I am just Red, one half of Code Red podcast. Me and my co-host Coco Cabana. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. You can find us on Pandora and Amazon. It's so many different platforms. Biggest thing you can do, hop on, go check us out on Instagram, Code Red a Podcast. Check us out on Facebook, Code Red a Podcast. Find me on Instagram at JustRed904, or you can either find my co-host Coco Cabana, COCO Cabana 904. Hit us up. The links are in our bios. Wherever you listen to podcasts, Google us, search us, go listen to us, leave comments, leave ratings, go to our Anchor page, leave us voicemail. Any feedback, hey, we welcome it. You can send us an email to codereddpodcast@gmail.com. I'm out here. We out here, and we're here to stay.
Okay. Now, I want to wrap this up real quick. Once again, this is the new series, The Rain. It's a episode where we go inside, we talk to a podcaster or podcasters about their show, and we're not talking about dominancy over anyone. We're talking about the aspect of how their reign, how their controlling interest in their genre gives them a reign. So once again, this is JR from West Virginia Commonplace with
Just Red from Code Red, a podcast.
And we're out of here.